Everyone, my name is David Rojas. I'm a manager of Global Solutions Architecture at Red Hat. And today I thought I'd walk you through using Red Hat Ansible Automation platform, automated against Windows, and specifically making changes to the legal notice. You know, when you log in to a Windows device and the notice that always appears there. So we'll take you through that. So our business problems, again, as we mentioned, is legal notices need to be changed at every organization for the most part. Legal always have some say on what goes in there. And from time to time, you may need to update, to stay within compliance. Normally, if you're doing this manually, you would use Regedit. And for those Windows admins out there, we all know Regedit can be a lot of fun. And I mean that very sarcastically, right? It's very mundane work, very detailed work. It's very easy to make a mistake, and even a small typo can be disastrous within Regedit. So we want to make sure that we can find better ways of doing this. So we'll take a look at items like speed of productions, right? How quickly can we do this? If you're doing this manually on 5 workstations, not a big deal. If you're doing this manually on 5,000 workstations and servers, that's going to take an extremely long time, and the chances of making a mistake somewhere along the line, it's pretty great, especially if you're up at midnight, during some change window making these changes. So human error becomes a major issue. Automating the process is not only quicker, it also reduces or eliminates that chance for human error or typos. Reducing complexity. At the end of the day, you need someone that can write this playbook, set it up in Ansible, and then anyone can use it. They don't have to be experts in Ansible. They don't have to be even experts in Regedit. They really just need to be able to fill out, a survey, and we'll talk about what that means in just a little bit. And as I mentioned, features we'll showcase here is going to be push-button deployments and self-service IT surveys. And by the way, I love IT surveys. You'll get a little bit more feel when we take a look at those directly. So with that, let's get right into it. Let's go to our tower. If you take a look here, and again, on the left-hand side, there's a number of different components to Ansible Tower. We're not going to get into all of these, but I did want to take a look at templates. This is where our job is going to live. As you notice, we have one here. Normally in production, you'll have a host, a ton of them here. In this case, we have the one Windows Regedit legal notice. Before we actually run this, I wanted to share a little bit with you about what the template actually looks like. It has a name, a description, things you expect to see. As an inventory it will run against, right? That could be a very small subset, like a group of developers, a call center team. It could be your people department. It can be any subset of a larger environment, or it can be the entire Windows environment. And that's something that you can define what inventory it uses, and then within that inventory, those groups, and we won't get into the details, but you can launch this against various portions or subsets of the entire environment. The project is basically your repo and where it's pulling the playbooks from. The playbook, as you can imagine, is the playbook that you're using. Credentials that's going to use to log into these devices, and so on. Verbosity, we can play around with in terms of troubleshooting. You can go, debug mode and get a lot more details. We're going to keep it simple for now, but just know you have all these options and a lot of other items we won't get into. But I wanted to show you one more thing before we go. This is the survey, which you'll be able to use when we launch it. Just know that this is kind of how this works. You're able to put in the prompt, a description, and many times the description can be used in terms of telling people what not to put in there. If use uppercase, lowercase, things like that. You'll put in the variable name that's used within your playbook to make sure that the response gets attached to that variable. And then of course there is the type of answer, right? We have it set as text, but there's text area, passwords, multiple choice, multiple select, and so on. Minimum, maximum length, and of course the default answer. You may have something that's regularly used in whatever survey you're creating. You can put that there, or you can leave that blank. That's up to you. So I guess we're going to cancel out of this. I just wanted to show you that real quick, and honestly to show you how easy it is to go and set up a survey. Again, you're not coding this. This is not something very complicated. You're not doing this within the playbook itself. You're doing it right here within this interface. So with that, let's get back in here. Let's go to a little rocket ship, hit the run. And as you can see, our survey immediately pops up, right? And this should look familiar because we just looked at that. Enter the text of the legal notice title. It has a default title already here, but we can eliminate that, right? So if we wanted to put something different, we'll call this demo title. Right, and then there's the body itself of the legal notice. Normally this is going to be multiple sentences, a whole paragraph, something that your legal department wants you to put. We can put something else. We'll keep this simple. Sample body, legal notice during demo, right? So as you can see, you can put really anything in here. This is the text areas. You hit next. What that does is simply take those values and attach them to the variables. And you can see that right here on the screen, right? You now have a variable and what you titled it, and what you set for it, and then another variable and the value for that as well. Okay, with that, we hit launch. And now we'll see our playbook actually running. You'll see that here, step 3, the play is initiating. Within plays, we have tasks. Within that task, we're updating the legal notice title first. So it's going into Regedit, making that change, making it securely repeatable. That mundane work for you on 1 or 1,000 or 10,000 workstations or servers for you. It's then going and updating the legal notice as well. Then it's completing and letting you know that everything came out okay. 2 tasks were run, and in cases they both finished correctly, meaning okay. That's why it's green. And then change, we have it in yellow because it actually went in and made changes during 2 of those tasks. If we were to run this again, you'll notice that it won't change things if we leave it exactly the same. And we'll actually run it one more time just so you can see that, that we can go in and just change it as many times as we want. All right, so with that has completed. Just to give you some idea, you can click into a task itself and get a lot more technical details of what's being done and what parameters Ansible's using. Right? But again, you don't have to create this. This is all being done for you by Ansible, but it does help in terms of troubleshooting in the early goings. Right, with that, let's go back to our template. We already showed you the survey. We showed you what it looks like. We can run this again. And with no issue, without having to go change anything in our playbook, without having to recode anything, the same Windows admin or another junior admin can go here and say, hey, the legal department said we have to change this back to Red Hat sample legal notice number 2. And then they want us to add approved on this. I'm making stuff up. You see the point. We can change it to anything we want. We hit next. It takes this information. You hit launch. And once again, it's running the play, running the task within the play, making the changes that it needs to make, completing, and let us know again, 2 tasks completed successfully, and 2 items were changed. All right. So again, that's how we are able to do this. And to recap, remember, we do this without any risk of error because we've tested this once before. We can go up against 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 Windows devices, make this change consistently, easy, and quickly without the risk of any errors. We don't run the risk of someone being tired in the middle of the night. Not to mention, you don't have to be up in the middle of the night doing this. You can schedule this to run during the change window. We didn't get into scheduling, but just know you can do that as well. So again, thank you very much for joining me during this demo video. Hope to see you in the future. Have a good evening and keep automating.